And welcome to the Right Here, Right Now live show, a show that explores our fullest and deepest breadth of humanity through one simple question. What's on your heart or mind right here, right now, in this moment? I do hope that you'll join. Oh my goodness. How exciting. Amazing human being, Venandah. How are you today?
Hey Gary, I am good. I am, I've had my oats, I've started my day right and, ready to chat for lunch.
I love that so much. And for anyone that's joining us now or when we replay this, Venandah, bless her, has got used to Gary Turner and technical faux pas. And we spent the last few minutes working out what the problem was with Venandah's technology, and it was Gary all the time. Hashtag oops. So thank you, Venandah.
You're welcome. And, for the people at home, by real technical issues, I had to get out extra equipment to make up for this big issue I couldn't solve because Gary didn't plug in his earphones. And what better way to start being here, right now, than actually, fiddling with tech.
Well, thank you as always for your amazing support, Venandah. I'm a big supporter of you and your work. But as we get going today, as you know, it's a little bit different. So I'm really curious, what's on your heart and mind right here, right now in this moment as we explore for the next 25 or 30 minutes?
The thing that I'm thinking about in this very moment is there's a book that I've been reading, which was introduced to me by Noor, and it's called Ego is the Enemy. And it is such a good read. And the bit that I was listening to today, because I've been doing a bit more audiobooks, it was talking about how as people, we work so hard on things that we don't actually like, to prove something to people who we don't actually respect, and ultimately ends up taking away a lot from us. And even if it's not a case where you're trying to prove it to other people you don't respect, it's like if you don't set boundaries for yourself for what is enough for me, the default will always be more. And I just found that really interesting, and it's got me thinking about, how I look at life, how I look at my goals, because I'm always somebody who's, ready to move on to the next thing, thinking about, okay, what's the next plan of action? What can we do now? And, really taking time to think, okay, what is enough? And perhaps there's no need to think about the next thing.
Wow, that's pretty deep. I love it.
Just a bit.
Lunchtime on a Friday or the weekend. No, but I love what you're speaking to. So really weirdly, there's two books that I've been exposed to recently, V. One's called Discovery of Less, which is from a guy called Chris Lovett, which is about minimalism. And actually, do we really need all of the stuff that we've got surrounding us? And another one's called, I think it's Less is More, and it's talking about degrowth. So actually, how could actually, instead of this myopic focus on just growth, what would it look like to reduce that growth and live more with what we already have? So there seems to be a similar sort of aim of this, like enoughness almost.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like as people, when we don't have enough, we set goals and that keeps us motivated. And I think most of us are used to operating in that space where we're working towards something. It gives us balance, it gives us focus. But very few of us are used to operating in a phase or system whereby we're not working towards the next goal, but we're living for the present moment, or we're really appreciating the phase that we're in now and taking it for all its twists and turns and positives and negatives without actually essentially trying to escape that phase.
So what's it bringing up in you? Again, as you're reflecting on this, what's it challenging you or maybe inspiring you to maybe think about or do differently as a result of that? that awareness?
I think it's inspiring me to focus on the goals that are important to me. So instead of always thinking, okay, what's the next thing? Thinking about what are the core values. You remember when we spoke about, oh, what does it mean to be Venandah? What are my core values and stuff like that? Um, it's more so focusing on that. And then that helps me in order to say yes to the next thing or no to the next thing. And, actually being able to say no to things that, although it seems like, the next big opportunity, the next big paycheck, the next big thing, if it doesn't fit within those values and if I'm already at capacity with the things that actually move me, I can confidently say no without feeling like I've let myself down. And I think that's a really important phase that I'm trying to like get into. But also it encourages me in the sense that if I'm working on something that I'm genuinely passionate about and I want to see, its impact, I want to help people, that's the
Mhm.
bit where it's like, okay, I'm not pushing myself for the sake of pushing myself or pushing myself for the sake of achieving that next goal, but I'm keeping on going because there's a vision and there's something that I would like to achieve or help an organization achieve or help my team achieve or help my family achieve to the next level. And that ties in with my core values of community and family. And yeah, it's a bit more me, I think.
That's amazing. Wow. Wow. And oh, hi. Nice. Thanks for joining us, Penna. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you very much for joining us
Hello
today.
from Brazil.
That's amazing. Isn't it amazing technology how we can literally just meet all over the world? I just love this.
It
Love it
really
so
is.
much. And it reminds me actually of some of the work you're doing around talk about, and I'd love to bring that into the conversation today, V. But I really love what you spoke to. So you've got what I've heard and what I've really felt as you spoke was this. It's almost like an inner knowing. Like actually, I know what I believe in. I know what matters to me, and I'm going to use that what matters to me as almost a decision-making tool.
Mhm.
Which you've got to stay super conscious with that, haven't you? Because otherwise, you can very
Yeah.
easily be delegated or given other people's stuff, and you take that on as your own really, really easily. I'm certainly guilty of that anyway.
No, that's really true. And, sometimes people are always saying, oh, Venandah, why don't you do this? Venandah, why don't you do this? And it's always something really cool. But then, it's taken a while for me to get to that point where I'm like, okay with doing not the minimum because, like, me and you, Gary, we're birds of a feather. Are we ever really doing the minimum? So, like,
No.
I'd say maintaining capacity. So, you know what's really hilarious? I'm about to say, your question has just gone in my head and out. So, bring it back, Gary. What was your question?
It was more of a reflection. It doesn't. This is what's beautiful about this show, right? Right here, right now. That's what happens in real life. We have. And you go, oh, actually, I've gone off on a wander somewhere. It's
Hmm.
okay. It's totally okay. And I love it. So what I'm going to bring it back to actually is tell us a little bit about what I love about these chats is we just start with right here, right now, what's on your heart and mind. But then I do want people who are watching or watch this back to learn a little bit about you. So can you talk a little bit about talk about skills? Because it's something that I think you're going to change the world with it, but that's just me. I'm a little bit biased. But tell us a little bit about talk about skills and what is Venandah bringing to that? So let's talk about skills and what's your drive as Venandah to really bring that to life?
Um, when it comes to talk about skills, well, what it is essentially, it's an e-learning platform solely focused on soft skills like personal development and really blending all of that tech skills and diversity, equity, and inclusion all together. And what I really love about it is that, when me and the team were developing it, it came from a place of love
Mm.
because we already had things that we were doing and we're like, oh, we're going to do this. But then when we thought of talk about skills, it was very much during the peak of the Black Lives Matter movement and it's carried on through with all the other movements like Stop Asian Hate, Free Palestine, and all of the different stuff that's been happening. And it's got the team, as in the talk about team, reflecting on our individuality. So within the team, there's people who are Christian, Muslim, atheists, people who are bisexual, straight, gay, allies. And do you know what makes it so special is that we never went out of our way to try and be diverse, but we just are. And I think the beauty of that is when we were developing it, you had our white colleagues, our black colleagues, our Arab colleagues all coming together to think, what do we want to create that we feel like can leave our mark on the table, but can also help other people to feel like they're contributing to a discussion that genuinely needs to happen. So then that's when we decided we want diversity and inclusion to be so entrenched that you don't actually know it's there, if that makes sense.
Oh, wow.
So um, we wanted it to be an experience that even if you are white, you're able to learn from a black lady who's senior in her field. Even if you're black, you're able to learn from a white guy who's senior in this field. Even if you're Asian, you're able to learn from somebody who is, let's say, mixed heritage and also has a disability. And the focus is on the learning, but the delivery is diverse. And the thing that keeps me motivated about what we've created is knowing that one day you will have some employees who join an organization, or you have middle management who are thinking about their next step, and they're able to plan their progression path by actually clicking into something that we've created, and
Mhm.
being able to not only see themselves reflected in the organization, but see someone who doesn't look like themselves, but to also see the skills that they have reflected back. So even in your difference, there's
Mm.
similarity. And it's just been kind of going back to that whole idea about, living in the moment. That's been the thing that has been pushing me, the idea that, we haven't created this because we're like, we want to create the next big thing and we want to be entrepreneurial and we need to do this to survive, but we've created it because it came from our heart. And if it does well, that's also a benefit. But I think when you're working in tech and you're creating something and you're pitching and you're putting it out there, if you don't actually believe in what you've created, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in your team, if you don't believe in the potential impact that what you've created can give, then it becomes really hard,
Mhm.
especially when you're already handling quite a busy career path, as many of us in the team are.
It's so cool. Please do go and check out. It's on the bottom of the screen here. Talk About Skills at talkaboutskills.com. And why I'm so keen for Venandah and her team to succeed is that we're not talking here. And I love the way, by the way, you linked it back to what's on your heart and mind right here, right now, around that being in the moment more. It's just beautiful. There's been, for anyone watching this, like, this is unscripted. That's the whole point of this show, is just like literally we're in the flow. And what I really love about what you're doing is that it's a legacy. Like, you're all doing it because you genuinely believe that the world needs it, and that when you're gone, that this product will still be there serving the next generation. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not being funny. You're not like in your 50s or 60s talking about this. Like, you're young people that are thinking
Yeah.
about legacy already. And that's what really blows my mind. When I was your age, without trying to give away my age, I was still on that very Western track, hit the money, make the money. Like, I didn't think about anything else apart from me till 39 years old. And I think that really shows these generational shifts that are coming through with more data, more knowledge, more connection across the world. And I'm just really, like, I just so respect you and your team and what you're doing, because it's an amazing platform.
And you
Amazing
know what?
platform.
You even say that, there's a big generational shift and stuff, and that's true. But I think what's also made it special, Gary is biased, but one thing that Gary has been fantastic in doing, right, is holding us to account and keeping us focused when doubt creeps in. And, if you ever need a pep talk, get someone like Gary, but not Gary because, he's my peer mentor. Um, but highly recommended. But I'm just kidding. If you do want Gary specifically, he's there. But at the end of the day, what's been really fantastic about Gary, Pete, and Fiona, and having you guys there is that what we have in passion and all these ideas that we bring to the table, you guys bring that wealth of experience and helping to shape everything. And I think that's what makes the world and ideas at this very moment really exciting, because I
Mhm.
think something really special happens when you can get to that magical middle place where imagination, lack of experience from being, held back by bureaucracy and all of these different processes, and that creative flair meets experience, understanding of sectors, understanding of how to speak to different audiences and companies on a high level. I think that's one of the things that has really been a big benefit to my growth and the growth of like my team and everything that we're doing. And yeah, I just wanted to give you props there.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you, V. But I think this is a great topic though, as we do flow through our chat today.
Mhm.
So just again to capture this for the recording. So Venandah mentioned peer mentoring, and what we're speaking about here is Venandah and I see each other as equal human beings. We're not sit. I know that Venandah's black. She knows that I'm white, but that's not the leading conversation. The
Mhm.
conversation is actually, what's your lived experience? How can I learn from? And I think that's what we started with, wasn't it? I was like, V,
Yeah, it was.
I don't understand the black lived experience in the UK or in the world, but I also really love what you're doing with Talk About, etc. Would there be any value in us being peer mentors? Like, is there anything I could offer you? And we've had
Mhm.
this beautiful sort of emerging journey over the last sort of 12 months where it's, and I want to emphasize this word, it's peer. It's not reverse mentoring. It's not Gary, the old white guy, sort of like mentoring little Venandah, who's sort of like setting up a tech company. It's like, no, we are absolute categoric equals. And that was how we set it up, wasn't it?
It is. And do you know what's been really helpful about that is it's actually hilarious when you look back at it, because there's been times where we've come and because it's so equal, there's been, a day where say it's very low for me and I'm just going through it, and vice versa for Gary. And being able to talk each other through from very different life experiences and vantage points has been so enriching. And I remember when I was describing, there was a phase where like, I was just juggling so many things. And I was describing it to Gary, like, oh, I feel like I'm a grape, like I don't know what do you call it, like the stick of grapes, or this is really a vine
Bunch
of
of
grapes,
grapes.
a bunch of grapes. That's it. So that I was like, oh, Gary, I feel like a bunch of grapes that's hanging in the middle of a room, and someone says go, it everyone goes and takes a grape all at the same time. And it was just nice to be able to give someone that analogy and for someone to understand exactly where you were coming from and just to be able to talk it through. And I think that would help so many people, if we just had a bit more of that freedom when it comes to mentorship and willingness to understand, and also willingness to not know or not understand, but be willing to go on that journey to get to that point of understanding.
And what are we talking about there, Venandah? Vulnerability. Like,
Hmm.
for me, that's the ultimate vulnerability. When we talk about vulnerability, it can be a really scary. Does that mean I've got to take out all my dirty laundry and like show it to the world? It's like, no. It's just literally, Venandah, I don't understand. Like, do you mind me asking you, what's your take on this? Like, that's vulnerability. It doesn't have to be this, the world's going to end if I share it with you, And I think people forget
Yeah,
that, Venandah, sometimes.
they really do. And you know what? I'm curious, Gary. It wouldn't be right for me not to ask you, what are you thinking right here and right now?
Oh, I see. Oh, Venandah, I didn't expect this actually. It's a really good point. What I'm thinking. So Venandah has her own podcast. She's got a load of her own. Her media is amazing. With Talk About. Go and check that out. Me, God, you've caught me. So right here, right now, in the moment, I'm actually. Do I give my honest thing that's on my heart and mind right now? It,
Yes.
it's it's colonialism. Nice light topic.
Mhm. Oh.
No. But what I mean by that is, I've been doing a lot of work with my spiritual guide down in the Philippines, and really trying to. And what you do brilliantly, again, this is how we weave these conversations. What I see you doing with Talk About is embodying that legacy that you want to see. And for
Mhm.
me, I'm in this very rapid phase, V, of trying to embody the change I want to see, which is around how do we have people understand people from a completely different context to you, as in like massively, like how can I have any idea what it's like to be a Filipino farmer just trying to keep
Mhm.
hold of my land to farm just for my family, while potentially I'm up against the government who's trying to grab that land because corporations are trying to expand their agriculture business, for example.
Yeah.
That's happening. That's happening, and we don't often realize that. So I guess what's on my heart and mind is, what can we do? What can I do as Gary to educate myself, but also then spread that knowledge to people that maybe look more like me, that wouldn't get that access. And we think that, you know, just selling more products, back to your point about growth, like grow, sell more chemicals, buy more clothes, buy another house. Like, we're so built as a Western society for more. And as you said, we're not built for enough.
Yeah.
So it's really linked. It's really linked, but I'm really looking at the systemic, like what the choices I'm making. Sorry, I'm getting to the point. I'll shut up. The choices,
No, it's making so much sense. Yeah.
the choices that I make are not just the choices that I make. So if I want to buy this microphone, which I'm speaking to the world through, that's made up of 100 different parts. Some are plastic, some are metals, some are other raw materials, but those raw materials are manufactured somewhere in the world. So the metals might come from Africa, the plastic might come from China, and then what's the supply chain that goes into making the plastic and the metal? And then you start going back up these different chains of supply. And what did you get back to, V? You get back to farmers just trying to live on their own, or indigenous tribes just trying to live locally, and then having to fight governments and corporations who are trying to take that land to produce the next chemical plant or to expand the next plantation. So it's a very complex thing, but I'm sensing into that and feeling what's my role in all of that. So sorry, you caught me off guard asking the question. That's what's on my heart and mind.
No, I think that's really interesting to hear, because, you know, sometimes when we ask, you know, it's definitely your show. Don't worry, guys. But you know, sometimes when we ask, you know, what are you thinking right here, right now, we automatically want to give people the answer that, you know, seems light or seems so relatable. But sometimes, so many of us are walking around thinking about such big topics like this because it seems like a big topic, but to somebody else, that's their world. And, you know, even by you sharing it and how it's making you feel, and, you know, the way that you're thinking through the whole complex web of all the different stakeholders involved, it's raising awareness, it's spreading that conversation elsewhere for the people who are listening to be able to continue that conversation. So, no, thank you for sharing that, Gary.
Thank you for, this is what we do. This is our peer mentoring relationship. Like, Venandah couldn't let it go. I love it. Thank you very much. By the way, I've never ever voiced, definitely not live, what I've shared. I've never shared that with anyone. Certain
Really?
people, yeah, never. I've never downloaded in that way. I've done a lot of stuff in the back, like you say. It's because I don't fully know. Back to vulnerability. It's not the sort of thing you'd normally share unless you're really confident you've got it all right. Because guess what? That group might take you down. That group might take you down. That group might try and take you down. Like, there's so much noise and so much sort of righteousness sometimes that, like, you try and get it. You want to be right enough before you communicate something like that. Whereas with you and I, we've got trust. We've got trust just to explore. And so,
Exactly. And you know what I wish we had more in the world is that everyone goes on a learning journey, and the learning journey is different. For example, I'm Black and Christian. My understanding of the Asian and Sikh experience might not be as in depth as I would need it to be. Or, you know, someone else's understanding of Islam, and like that experience might be different. But what we need to get to is a point where, you know, people can talk and ask questions without fear of being shut down and hit at automatically, but also in a way that is welcoming of questions, such that, you know, where you do get it wrong, oh, you know, I can see where you're trying to get to, but that wasn't the best way to phrase it, for example, or that's not actually what it is. And I think what's missing sometimes in conversations is compassion, and an understanding that, you know, not everyone's going to get it right, and not everybody understands everyone's challenges, and even people who are experiencing challenges or experiencing I don't know, maybe you know, stress at some point, might not actually understand someone else's stress, but that doesn't make your stress that they don't understand any less relevant. And it reminds me of a quote I absolutely love, and it goes, "Just because um, you're in a full body cast and my arm is broken, it doesn't mean that, my pain isn't relevant. So, for example, you can feel for someone and really appreciate that that person is in a worse situation than me. But that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you have to make yourself feel bad. Or let's say you know someone who's having a really bad mental breakdown, like they're really going through it. Just because they're going through it doesn't mean you have to tell yourself, my little bit of burnout and my little bit of occasional sadness, I need to ignore it. I don't need to give it attention because it's not as bad as so and so
Mm.
over there. And it's all about giving ourselves a bit of grace and kindness to know, it's okay to look after yourself. And it's okay to have different levels of pain tolerance and different levels of understanding as long as you're willing to improve and to work on yourself and try to be the next best version of what that seems like to you.
It's really beautiful, and thank you for sharing that, because the words I picked up, which really resonated, and you spoke about, you built to talk about skills with your team from a place of love. Maybe the
Mhm.
gap sometimes in this conversation when we're trying to lean in but maybe feel afraid is compassion. Isn't
Mhm.
it fascinating that this conversation is coming back again to that human connection? Really,
Exactly.
is like the root cause, isn't it?
It is, and I think one thing that I've always been somebody who loves being around people. So we spoke earlier about how my values are community and family. And, I think that speaks very much to the person that I am. I'm one of five siblings. So I've always grown up in a busy household surrounded by so much love and so much fun and so much chaos. And, in a family of seven as well. And then I've got my cousins and my different friends and also the young people that I work with. It's a big community. And I think when you're around such a big community of different people, you learn that, you don't know it all. You every time you think you learn something new, there's something else that's developed that you don't know. And we need to be open to understanding each other, showing each other compassion, and also being able to have a bit of fun with it here and there. I think that's what would make the world just a little bit nicer.
So like this I could almost cry with what you're sharing. I'll tell you why, V. No, I'm serious. Like, it's so meaningful what you're sharing, and you're sharing it from like a personal point of view, but it's so profound because I didn't realize this, right? So I think this is like the 18th or 19th conversation I've had since I set this experiment up. Yeah. And this is what I love about you
Mhm.
as well. Like, we're both experimenters. We just love playing and practicing and
Exactly.
experimenting. But there's this really key thing that keeps coming up, and it's play and love, care. Those are the two. Every single, when I think back to every conversation without prompts, and bear in mind that they're all in the moment flow conversations with no planning,
Mhm.
they all end up back at play and love. Like, it's fascinating, and I guess it makes sense because that's what we are. Like, at our
Mhm.
absolute inner core, we're not nasty, divisive, want to dominate other people at our core, are we? I don't think anybody is.
Yeah, and I think one, we've gotten into this phase to a certain extent where everyone wants to be better. They want to do something. They want to show that they're moving forward. They're making movements, such that we forget that life is so much more fun when you're a bit more chill and you can play a bit and you can let your hair down. And I think that's something that I've really, really, this particular year, have had to work on because after exams and after I took a bit of a break from work and stuff, I was like, I remember talking to my cousin. I was like, Melinda, like, I need something to do. I'm lacking in purpose. Like, I'm lacking in something that keeps me grounded, that gives me a sense of purpose. And now, a few months later, I'm like, you know what? I welcome an empty day. I welcome the chance to breathe, the chance to just relax, to listen to my books, to even nap the day away if I can, because life is fleeting. And I know that that time that I have for that is limited. But it's those moments that you have that you can play and almost bring out your inner child that gives you a bit of
Nice.
rejuvenation. And my godson turned 4 years old the other day, and I was just reflecting on like when he was born, and he was just, he just had these big eyes and he would just stare at everyone like you're the most fascinating thing ever. And now we were at Sea Life Center and he was just running around. He was just like, Mama V, come look at this. And like, it felt nice to be a child and, you know, to not have to worry about the next thing and what am I going to do? What pitch am I doing next? But it was just in that moment. Let's have a look at these stingrays. Isn't nature beautiful? And I think I wish that we had more of those opportunities to just relax and take a step back and see the world from a child's lens and really see that in the grand scheme of things, we're just a small fish in something that's bigger than ourselves. But in being a part of it, we're also shaping something that to someone else will one day be, you know, the blueprint. So, yeah.
Wow, wow, my whole head is buzzing, like literally. But I don't know. Now you can see why I love this human being. Like it's simple. Like when you watch this back, you can understand why I love Venandah. Go and please follow her work. Pop it up again. Talk about skills. Go and find her on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, you blow my mind. Simple as that. You just blow my mind.
You know what? Birds of a feather, Gary. Genuinely,
it's. You get me. So like if I'd said to you 31 minutes ago, do you mind just putting a little bow and a little cherry on top and just link it back to where you are in the moment right here, right now, 31 minutes ago? Oh yeah, it's about being in the present. Thank you, V. Perfect.
That's the nice thing about it, though. You know, we got there in the end and, you know, you managed to keep your earphones plugged in, my sound works, and we're ready to kickstart our day. And it's nice. It really is.
It's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me. You honestly, you blow my mind. Do go follow V's work. Check out Talk About. And by the way, I do want to do a quick plug with Venandah and her team's platform. She's been in some really, really significant conversations. Like we're not talking about working with as much as they're valued as well, smaller companies, SMEs. Like this platform's been looked at by multi-thousand person organizations globally. So there's a lot of credibility behind V, her team, and the platform. So please do go and check it out. So Venandah, thanks so much for your time. Much love. And we'll keep in touch.
Thank you for having me, Gary. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.